Red Bull is Formula One's trendsetter moving into 2024, with competitors attempting to imitate its design, but it has taken the game forward even more. Other teams thought Red Bull were reaching the peak of development during this regulation era. But instead, Red Bull promoted aggressive progress, creativity, and experimentation above conservative evolution. Rather than adjusting to achieve marginal benefits, they have gone bold, attempting to push the bounds. The car's one weakness last season, while far from being an Achilles heel, was in slow-speed bends, making it susceptible on street circuits like Monaco and Singapore. Indeed, the one defeat came at Marina Bay against Ferrari's Carlos Sainz. It must have irritated the crew, and they have clearly set out to address it. With such strengths elsewhere, innovation must definitely be focused on straightening out the lone kink. The season has not even begun, but arguably, the goal when Newey and his crew started was to develop a car capable of returning the coveted undefeated title. The design was most remarkable not just because it was a bold departure, but also because it had characteristics reminiscent of the Mercedes design that the team used for 2 failed seasons before abandoning in 2024. In particular, the vertical side pod inlets, which were part of Mercedes' contentious zero side pod design that they have since abandoned, and a bulge beneath the engine cover, which was part of the cooling system on last year's Mercedes. Rival teams have started proposing their own versions of Red Bull's underbite inlet and undercut solution, which was developed during the previous 2 seasons. But Red Bull has jettisoned the underbite on the RB20 in favour of an overbite layout, with the high panel now serving as an extension for the side pod's upper surface, while the intake is located below, mated to a very generous undercut. What inlet, you may wonder? And you'd be correct, since the team's renderings lack one. However, based on photographs of the RB20 being shook down at Silverstone, it appears like there is a vertical intake beside the chassis. This has also been confirmed by people on site for the physical launch. Now, in terms of that inlet, you may be wondering, hang on, haven't I seen this before? You'd be correct, since it's quite similar to Mercedes' vertical inlet from last season when it attempted to make the zero-pod idea work for the last time. Furthermore, Ferrari's SF23 and SF24 had a vertical intake in this place, although it powered the bypass ductwork rather than cooling the interior components. Let's be clear, Red Bull hasn't attempted to reproduce the zero-pod here. Instead, it's a hybrid solution that combines a larger, high-waisted, severe undercut, downwashing ramp solution with a vertical intake. This also means that, unlike Mercedes, the team did not have to go to extraordinary measures to dig the sides of the chassis in order to push the radiators towards the car's center line, since it still has full-width bodywork to enclose such ancillaries. The introduction of this vertical inlet follows an intense development program that the team undertook with the RB19 last season to help drive performance from the undercut, with its underbite-style solution improving with each iteration, culminating in the update that arrived at the Hungarian GP. Based on the shift in tack, it appears that the underbite solution had run its course, with the dimensional constraints of the regulations in regard to the width of the inlet, which has been raised higher, making it more difficult to create a neat trade-off between improving aerodynamics and providing the necessary cooling. Placing the intake vertically beside the chassis may result in some losses due to the way airflow and pressure interact in this location. However, it is certainly an acceptable trade-off to have more options with the depth and width of the undercut. The undercut feeds into a deep midline cut that extends almost to the back part of the downwash ramp and softly tapers outward from there. Removing the intake from the top of the side pod and replacing it with an overbite almost likely enhances the airflow on the upper surface of the bodywork. To take advantage of this, the side pod now follows a concept introduced by Alpine with a mild waterslide gully utilized to provide flow separation that better regulates airflow into the Coke bottle area. It has also attempted to enhance this area of the car, but not in isolation, but rather through the implementation of another concept that originated with last year's Mercedes. The RB20's engine cover has a shelf-like protrusion that not only produces a deep waterslide gully on its upper surface that slopes sharply at the back, but also has an extraordinarily high waist with a depression that is only interrupted by an outlet front of the upper wishbone's lead arm. All these innovations look amazing, but it did create some backlash. Were they trying to troll Mercedes and show how you create a zero-pod solution? Red Bull claims that its decision to Mercedes-style solutions on its new RB20 Formula One vehicle was motivated solely by a desire for increased performance. The Milton Keynes-based team raised eyebrows when they revealed some concepts that Mercedes had previously tested and abandoned. This contains full-length engine gullies reminiscent to the 2023 Mercedes, as well as an extreme form of side pods that is not entirely dissimilar to the zero-pod idea that its German manufacturer competitor competed before abandoning. Ahead of a season in which rivals have converged significantly on Red Bull's earlier designs, the world champion's new path, returning to what their rivals have abandoned, is interesting. However, team manager Christian Horner said the motivation for the move was not to tease the rivals, but rather to find solutions that would provide lap time. And while the all-important flaw remains hidden, the engine cover has a Mercedes-style design, and Christian Horner claims there are some substantial advancements. It's not tactical, it's based on performance and what we're seeing through our simulation tools, Horner said. Obviously, the car looks quite visibly different in certain areas to last year. Only the stopwatch will tell, but in the virtual world we wouldn't have committed it to design if we didn't feel it was better. It's marginal gains in all areas, so you're constantly looking to try and evolve. If you look at the detail on the car, there's some really exquisite detail. And I think the team, there's been no complacency. They've continued to evolve, to push the boundaries. I think there's some great innovation on the car as well, which will no doubt get scrutinized over the coming weeks. Creativity has been strong in the team, and you can see that in some of the solutions that they've come up with. It's not a conservative evolution. There's some great innovation on this car. World champion Max Verstappen disagreed that Red Bull had adopted a Mercedes-like approach with their car. I would still call it a Red Bull style, but I know what you mean. He did, however, commend the team's technical directors for their attempts to be proactive with the modifications from last year's victorious RB20. I'm quite happy with the direction that they chose, he said. I saw the drawings, I think, in Abu Dhabi, the last race, and I was like, wow, that's quite different in a way. They've not been conservative, let's say it like that. I think what I like about the team is that we had a great package, but they took the chance to really go all out, I would say, and try to make it better. Of course, time will tell if it's really, really good. But from what I see within the team, everyone is just happy with what they have achieved in the winter. But then again, we don't know. We can't control what other people did. Perez feels the adjustments reflect Red Bull's desire to preserve their current lead. It just shows the hunger that we have, Perez said. We have such a dominant car last year that you wouldn't expect us to change the concept that much, you know? I think it is really brave from Red Bull to do. It just shows how much this team is looking to move forward and push all the boundaries. At the car's unveiling, Newey oozed a serene confidence, as if this wasn't a shot in the dark. To be fair, Mercedes did not merely copy last year's Red Bull blueprint as other teams did, but also exhibited their own creativity in their side pod structure, shifting their cockpit back, as asked by Lewis Hamilton, and on rear and front wings. However, it is tough not to think that the team will be spitting feathers if Red Bull is able to pull off the side pod design that they thought promised so much, but were forced to discard. How all of this plays out, whether Red Bull has once again abandoned their opponents or forced them into a dead end, is unknown for the time being, but not for long. Testing will begin in Bahrain on Wednesday for 3 days, followed by the first race on March 2nd at the Sakir circuit. There isn't much time, therefore cards will almost probably be dealt. What are your thoughts? Will Red Bull become the unbeatable force again this year? Or will we see marginal gains come in and competitors finally come closer? Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below.